Hey guys, and welcome back to Boring Money Quote for Sleep. Tonight, our journey takes us to a place you might think you know intimately. Ancient Athens. The very name conjures images of sun-drenched marble, the hushed wisdom of philosophers debating under olive trees, the grandeur of democracy being born on the Nix Hill, a beacon of civilization for all time. That is the myth. That is the gilded, sun-bleached postcard history we often carry in our minds. But tonight, you are going to shed that myth, like a worn chiton. You are going to experience the stark, grinding reality. We are going back to 400 BCE, to the immediate, brutal aftermath of the Peloponnesian War. The golden age of Pericles is long dead, swallowed by decades of devastating conflict. The city, once the envy of the world, now lies broken, its treasury plundered, its spirit fractured, its people reeling from famine and plague. You're about to discover that when the high-flown ideals of a great society crumble under the weight of debt and despair, survival isn't just a challenge, it becomes its own raw, unforgiving form of justice. If you're enjoying these stories, a quick like or subscribe helps more than you know. It's a small click, but it helps us keep these journeys into the past going, illuminating the economic realities that shape human history. I'm always curious where you're all listening from, so drop your city and time in the comments. It's incredible to see our community stretching all across the world, sharing these quiet moments of historical immersion. Now, dim the lights, settle into bed, and let's go back and truly feel the weight of ancient Athens. The poets sing, even now, of Athenian glory. Their voices, thin and reedy, echo through the empty spaces of the agora, clinging to the remnants of a faded dream. They speak of the gleaming marble of the Parthenon, that magnificent temple to Athena, crowning the Acropolis like a jewel. It still stands there, catching the last defiant rays of the setting sun, a perfect, golden silhouette against a sky bleeding from deep purple to bruised violet. From where you stand, on a dusty, neglected hill just outside the city walls, you can see it all. The grand, sweeping vista of a once proud city. It is breathtaking. And it is a lie. The glory they speak of is a ghost, a shimmering, unattainable specter. It haunts these ancient hills, a bitter memory of a time before the long, ruinous decades of war with Sparta, a time before the plague, before the gnawing, pervasive hunger, before the disastrous expedition to Sicily that devoured an entire generation of Athens' finest men, leaving behind only the shattered remnants of families and dreams. Your husband, Damon, was one of them. He was a hoplite, a shield-bearer, a defender of this city's ideals. His body lies not in this hallowed ground, but somewhere in the sun-baked dust of a forgotten battlefield, his sacrifice another uncounted casualty. His name is etched onto a simple, rough-hewn stone marker here, nestled amongst dozens of others, each a silent testament to a life lost. The stone feels cool and indifferent beneath your fingertips. It is too small, you think, to contain the vibrant, boisterous memory of him. The state, that grand, glorious entity for which Damon gave his life, had promised you a pension, a hero's reward for a hero's widow. A pittance, really, but a pittance that could mean the difference between meager survival and outright starvation for you and your children. But the state is bankrupt. Its treasury, once overflowing with silver from the Laurian mines, is now a gaping, echoing void. The promises of politicians, once golden currency, are now the cheapest coin in the city, and they buy nothing, absolutely nothing, at the agora. You feel the cold, sharp irony of it all. The marble temple standing tall, yet the children of its defenders slowly fading. You turn away from the tomb, away from the beautiful, lying temple on the hill, and begin the walk home. The path is narrow, winding, worn smooth by generations of feet, many of them as desperate as your own. It is a small oikos, a whitewashed courtyard house on the very edge of the city's sprawl. Once it was a proud, bustling place, alive with daemons' robust laughter, filled with the aroma of freshly baked bread and the clatter of happy children. Now the walls are cracked, traceries of time and neglect spiderwebbing across the once smooth plaster. The paint, originally a pristine white, is peeling in brittle flakes, revealing the raw, sun-baked clay beneath. A profound and weary silence has taken root in the central courtyard, a heavy, suffocating blanket, broken only by the quiet, often plaintive, voices of your two small children, barely old enough to remember their father's face. You are Lysandra. You are, in your early 30s, you are a widow. And the full, crushing weight of your poverty is a physical presence, a constant, unwanted companion in this silent, decaying house. You walk directly to the storeroom, a small, dark space built into the cool stone foundation of the house. The sight within is a familiar, recurring pain that clenches your gut. One sack of barley, its mouth cinched tight with a leather thong, its contents alarmingly, despairingly low. You plunge your hand into the cool, coarse grains, feeling the dwindling supply, a handful of dried figs, shriveled and hard, nestled in a clay bowl. A half-empty jug of water, its surface reflecting the single sliver of light from the doorway. This is the stark, sensory reality of your economics. Not the grand, abstract theories of philosophers debating on the ticks, but the hollow, gnawing ache in your own stomach, the rough, scratchy feel of the near-empty grain sack, the sight of your son's thin, almost translucent wrists as he plays, oblivious, in the dusty courtyard. This is the brutal arithmetic that governs your life, day in and day out. Your only other significant asset, your only remaining hope, stands in the very center of the courtyard, shrouded beneath a heavy, dusty canvas. The olive press. It is ancient, a colossal, unwieldy contraption made of dark, heavy olive wood, its beams and levers worn smooth by generations of use by Damon's family. Its central screw, thick as a man's thigh, speaks of immense, slow power. It is an ancient and powerful piece of machinery, a testament to a more prosperous time, a time when this land fed and clothed entire families. Next to your small house, forming a verdant border to your small plot, is the reason for this legacy, a grove of 24 ancient olive trees, their silver-green leaves shimmering and rustling softly in the twilight breeze. The harvest is just a few weeks away. The olives, you know, will be plentiful this year, heavy with fruit, the oil rich and golden. It has always been the way your family survived the long, lean winters. You would press the olives, fill the amphorae, and sell the oil in the bustling agora. A simple, honest transaction. An honest life. But that life, that simple, honest transaction, is now a memory. It has been declared illegal. The next day, the herald arrives. You are in the courtyard, the familiar rhythm of needle and thread, a small comfort as you mend your young son's worn chiton, trying to coax another season of wear from the faded linen. You hear him first, his voice a loud, officious boom that echoes through your quiet neighborhood, cutting through the usual drone of cicadas and distant chatter. He is a messenger from the magistrates, a man in a pristine, clean robe, his face soft and well-fed, a stark contrast to the hollow cheeks of your neighbors. He unrolls a pristine scroll of papyrus, its edges crisp and white, and begins to read a new decree. To restore the city's depleted treasury, he proclaims, and to ensure fair prices and prevent profiteering, the state is taking control. A new monopoly is declared. From this day forward, all olives must be sold directly to the state depot, at a price fixed by the magistrates. The private pressing and selling of olive oil is now, explicitly, a crime. The penalty? The confiscation of your property. All of it. He rolls up his scroll with a flourish, as if delivering glorious news, and moves on to the next section of the neighborhood, his loud, confident voice fading into the distance. He leaves his words hanging in the dusty air, heavy and poisonous. The other women, the other widows and struggling farmers in your small community, look at each other with wide, frightened eyes. You all understand what this means. The price the state is offering is a pittance, a truly insulting sum, barely enough to cover the cost of harvesting the olives, let alone sustaining a family through the winter. It is not a fair price. It is a confiscation in all but name, a legal fiction designed to mask outright theft. Ignatius, the magistrate whose seal is affixed to the bottom of that scroll, is not saving the city. He is plundering it, piece by agonizing piece, under the guise of law. That night, you lie on your mat in the small, dark room, the familiar sound of your children's soft, even breathing filling the oppressive silence. The hunger in your own belly is no longer just a physical sensation. It is a cold, tight knot of fear, twisting relentlessly. You see your future laid out before you with a terrible, chilling clarity, a path of slow, humiliating starvation. You see your children's faces growing thinner, their laughter fading into quiet whimpers. You see your home, your modest oikos, your last tangible connection to Damon, taken from you, reduced to a heap of whitewashed rubble by the state's unfeeling hand. The city you and your husband believed in, the city of laws, of democracy, of justice, of high-minded ideals, has utterly forgotten you. It has turned its back on you. It has made your very act of survival, your labor, your hope, illegal. Poverty, you realize with a cold, sharp clarity, is not just a lack of things. It is a cage. And the bars of that cage have just been slammed shut with a sickening finality. In the oppressive darkness, a new feeling begins to stir, slow and cold, pushing aside the fear and the despair. It is a hard, unflinching resolve. If the law is the cage, then you will live outside the law. If the state will not feed your children, you will. You will become what you must. You close your eyes. The image of Damon's face, strong and determined, burning behind your eyelids. You will not let his sacrifice be for nothing. You will not let his children starve. The decision, forged in the desperate, suffocating silence of the night, feels different in the harsh, unforgiving light of day. It feels like madness, like an absurd defiance of forces far too immense to comprehend. You are Lysandra. You are a widow, a mother. You are not a rebel, not by nature, not by choice. But one look at the paltry handful of barley remaining in the sack in your storeroom, one lingering glance at the shadowed hollows beneath your children's eyes, is all it takes to steel your resolve. The madness you realize is not in defying the law, but in obeying one that condemns your family to slow starvation. You walk to the center of your modest courtyard, the sun already warm on your shoulders, and pull the heavy, dusty canvas off the olive press. It stands there, revealed in the morning light, like a sleeping beast of burden, its massive wooden beams dark and weathered, groaning softly as if in protest to being awakened. The central screw, thick as a man's thigh, spirals upwards, ending in the great lever you must push. You have only ever helped Damon operate it, a shared rhythm of strength and precision. Now you must master it alone. A single woman against a machine built for two strong men. The work is a brutal education in physics, leverage, and sheer desperation. The press is a simple machine, a testament to ancient ingenuity, but it demands a strength you barely possess. You begin by meticulously cleaning the basin, brushing away the dried remnants of last year's harvest. Then you haul the heavy baskets of olives you gathered yesterday from your small grove, your muscles screaming in protest with each lift, the woven wicker digging into your calloused hands. The olives, plump and dark, cascade into the large stone basin, their faint, earthy aroma rising to meet the morning air. You load them carefully, ensuring an even distribution, a small act of meticulous preparation for the arduous task ahead. Then comes the real challenge, the lever. It is a thick, rough-hewn beam, heavy as a fallen tree limb. You brace your feet on the slick, oil-stained stone floor, dig your heels in, and put your entire body into it. You push. The great wooden screw begins its slow, agonizing turn, grinding against itself with a deep, protesting groan. The sound of ancient wood, of stubborn stone, being forced to bend to your will. Your back aches immediately, a dull throb that quickly sharpens into a searing pain. Sweat begins to bead on your forehead, trickling down your temples. You push again, gritting your teeth, picturing your children's faces. Each revolution of the screw compresses the olives further, squeezing the life from their flesh. The physical struggle is a perfect mirror of your internal one, a solitary fight against a force so much larger than yourself, against the crushing weight of circumstance, against the unfeeling decree of the state. Finally, after what feels like an eternity of straining and pushing, a thin, viscous trickle of liquid begins to seep from the spout at the base of the press. It is not clear, but rich, pungent, a deep green-gold liquid that catches the sunlight. It is the color of your crime. It is, you realize, also the color of your hope. You work all day, under the unforgiving Athenian sun, your body aching with a profound, bone-deep weariness, until you have pressed enough olives to fill a single, small amphora. It is not much, barely a day's sustenance for a family, but it is a tangible start. The amphora, when full, feels surprisingly heavy, its cool terracotta surface rough against your fingers, the illicit oil sloshing softly within. But oil in a jar, no matter how golden, is not yet food in the mouths of your children. It is not warmth in the hearth. It is not safety. You need a market. And you need a way to transport it. The main gates of the city, you know, are now patrolled by the new city guard, Scythian archers in their conical caps, checking every cart, every basket for contraband. Your plain, unmarked amphora, filled with its precious, illegal cargo, would be a confession. You cannot risk it. You need help. There is only one person in this sprawling, hungry city you can truly trust. As dusk begins to paint the sky in hues of orange and ash, you leave your children in the care of a trusted neighbor, a widow herself, who understands the precarious tightrope you walk. You take the single full amphora and, hiding it beneath a coarse wool cloak, begin the walk to the Kerameikos, the potter's quarter. It is a labyrinthine district of clay dust and smoke, where the air is thick with the earthy scent of drying clay and the acrid tang of firing kilns. The sounds are a symphony of industry, the rhythmic thud of potters, wheels, the scrape of tools against clay, the distant clang of metal on metal from a nearby smithy. You navigate the narrow, winding alleys, each turn a familiar memory from days spent with Damon. You find the workshop of Theron. His name, carved simply above the heavy wooden door, is a testament to generations of honest craft. He was Damon's friend, a man who had shared wine and easy stories with your husband in this very workshop, often late into the night. He is old now, his once straighter back stooped from a lifetime spent bent over his wheel, shaping the earth. His large, powerful hands, capable of coaxing beauty from mere mud, are permanently caked in a fine layer of dried clay, his fingernails perpetually stained. He has a kind, deeply lined face, etched with the wisdom of years, and a warm, empathetic smile that crinkles the corners of his eyes. He looks up as you appear in his doorway, silhouetted against the fading light, and his wrinkled face breaks into that familiar, comforting smile. But his eyes, sharp and knowing, quickly register the worry in your own, the subtle clench of your jaw, the way your hand instinctively tightens on the amphora hidden beneath your cloak. The smile fades, replaced by a look of grave understanding. You do not need to explain the new law to him. He is a craftsman, an artisan, a man whose livelihood is tied to the honest exchange of goods. He understands the heavy, crushing hand of the state. He understands the desperation that drives good people to desperate measures. You walk further into the workshop, the ground soft with decades of accumulated clay dust. The shelves are lined with amphorae of all sizes, bowls, craters, plates, each a testament to his skill. You place the amphora from beneath your cloak gently on a rough wooden bench, its weight thudding softly. You do not ask him for a loan. A loan, is a kindness he cannot afford to give, not in these lean times. You ask for something far more dangerous, something that would make him an accomplice. Theron, you say, your voice low, barely above a whisper, straining to remain steady. I need amphorae, jars. You gesture vaguely to the shelves, but not from your front stock, the ones you sell in the agora. I need jars from the back, the ones that are plain, utterly unmarked, the ones that no one, not even a suspicious guard, would notice or trace back to you. You meet his gaze directly, allowing the raw, unvarnished fear and determination in your eyes to speak for themselves. He looks at you for a long moment, his gaze unblinking, steady and deep, as if weighing the very clay of your soul. The silence stretches, filled only by the distant sounds of the city and the faint crackle of a dying kiln fire. You hold your breath. Then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, he nods. A single, profound movement of his clay-stained head. A potter's work is to make vessels, he says, his voice a low, earthy rumble, like the sound of clay being worked on his wheel. What a person chooses to fill them with, that, Lysandra, is their own business. He rises, his joints creaking, and shuffles to the back of his workshop, past shelves of drying pots, into a dimly lit corner. He returns with 3 plain, sturdy, undecorated jars, still faintly smelling of fresh earth and kiln smoke. They are perfect. He refuses your tentative offer of payment. Damon was a good man, is all he says, his eyes holding a depth of shared grief and loyalty that transcends mere words. You have your first, indispensable ally. That night, you commit your first crime. It is a clumsy, terrifying, profoundly lonely affair. Theron, with a conspiratorial whisper and a brief, furtive glance over his shoulder, has told you of a baker on the far side of the agora, a man named Phelon, who is willing to trade on the burgeoning black market, hungry for the untaxed oil for his lamps and loaves. You decant your precious, illegally pressed oil into one of the new, unmarked amphorae. It feels impossibly heavy in your arms, the physical weight of your future, the dangerous burden of your defiance. You carry it through the dark, winding, deserted streets of Athens. The usual vibrant sounds of the city at night, the chatter from taverns, the distant strains of a lyre, are muted, replaced by the unsettling echo of your own footsteps. You stick to the deepest shadows, a ghost in your own city, your heart hammering against your ribs at every distant shout, every unseen rustle, every barking dog that breaks the silence. The alley behind Phelon's bakery smells of burnt flour, stale bread, and the nervous sweat of your own fear. Phelon is a large, nervous man, his face perpetually powdered with flour. He doesn't meet your eyes, his gaze darting frantically from side to side, a silent testament to the fear that permeates this new, illicit economy. The transaction is silent, swift, and utterly devoid of human warmth. You place the heavy jar on the ground. He inspects it, running a cautious hand over the rough terracotta, his eyes lingering on the golden liquid within. He pushes a small, heavy cloth bag into your hands. You do not check its contents until you are safely away, until the darkness of the city streets has swallowed you once more. You make your way back to your oikos, your muscles trembling, not from exertion but from the raw adrenaline that still surges through your veins. You bar the gate with a hand that still shakes. You open the bag. Inside is not food, not yet. It is money. A small, precious handful of silver drachmas. More than you have held in your hands in over a year. The coins are cool and smooth and impossibly real against your palm. You let them fall into the empty grain sack, the sound, a faint metallic clink against the sparse grains. You have done it. You have broken the law. You are a criminal. And for the first time in a long time, as you stand in the quiet darkness of your oikos, the weight of the silver, a powerful presence in your hand, with absolute certainty that you will be able to buy grain. Tomorrow, your children will eat. The cage, you realize, has a door, and you have found a way to pry it open. Your first successful crime is a powerful, undeniable catalyst. The fear, that cold, watchful companion, remains. It coils in your gut with every suspicious shadow, every distant shout. But it is now matched, utterly, by a growing, defiant sense of empowerment. You have discovered, with your own hands and your own daring, that the state's power, its grand decrees and harsh penalties, is not absolute. Its laws, you realize, are only as strong as the people who choose to obey them. And in a city of empty stomachs, where desperation gnaws at the very bones of its populace, obedience, you understand, is a luxury few can truly afford. Your small operation begins to grow, not by grand design, not through aggressive expansion, but by a quieter, more organic force, necessity. It is the unspoken truth, the shared glance, the desperate whispers among women who face the same grim arithmetic of survival. Another war widow from your neighborhood, Praxilla, approaches you one dusty afternoon. Her olive grove is even smaller than yours, her resources even more meager, but her children's hunger, is just as vast. She has heard the whispers, the faint rumors that follow the rustling of silver in the black market. She asks, not with shame, but with a fierce, quiet dignity, if she can join you. You look into her eyes, sharp and weary, and you see your own raw desperation, your own unwavering resolve reflected there. You agree. Then another woman comes, a potter's wife whose husband's business is failing. And then another, and another. Each new face is a new risk, a new burden, but also a new piece of strength, a new strand in the growing web of your defiance. Your oikos, your quiet, once mournful home, slowly transforms. The courtyard, once a place for your children to play beneath the shade of the fig tree, becomes the secret, industrious heart of a growing enterprise. The rhythmic groan of the ancient olive press is no longer an occasional sound but a near constant presence, its deep thrum filling the air from dawn until dusk. The rich, pungent, slightly bitter smell of fresh oil, once a fleeting aroma, now hangs permanently in the air, clinging to your clothes, your hair, permeating the very stones of your home. You are no longer just Lysandra, the grieving widow, the solitary mother trying to feed her family. You are, slowly, reluctantly, becoming the manager of a small, illegal cooperative, a silent, vital rebellion of women driven by love and necessity. You organize them, teach them the careful art of pressing, the meticulous process of filtering, the quiet skill of sealing the amphorae. Each woman becomes a vital cog, a silent partner in your shared crime. With this growing volume comes a new set of problems, more complex than mere production. The risk of discovery, of the state's heavy hand descending upon you, multiplies with every new amphora you fill, every whispered transaction. You cannot move all this oil yourself, and the plain, unmarked jars, while offering anonymity, also offered no guarantee of quality. The black market, you are learning, is not without its own forms of deception. You need a system, a way to move your product, to distinguish it, in the burgeoning shadow economy. without being obvious, without raising suspicion. You go to Theron again, under the cloak of twilight. His workshop is quieter now, the demand for legitimate pottery dwindling with the city's fortunes. He sits at his wheel, his back even more stooped, his hands slowly, meditatively, working a lump of clay that will likely never be fired into a finished pot. He listens, his gaze never leaving his hands, but his ears, miss nothing. You explain the challenge, the need for discretion, the need for trust, the need for a mark that speaks volumes without uttering a word. The next week, he delivers a new batch of amphorae to your oikos, carried discreetly by his youngest apprentice. They are identical to the others he provided in every way, plain, sturdy, rough terracotta, except for one tiny, ingenious detail. Near the base of each jar, so subtle it is almost invisible unless you know precisely where to look, he has painted a small, discreet symbol, a single, stylized olive leaf, a darker green against the lighter clay. It is simple, elegant, and profoundly brilliant, a mark of quality, he says with a wry smile, the lamplight glinting off the fine clay dust on his face. So the people know they are not buying watered-down state refuse, and so they know who to thank. It is your brand. It is a secret sign of trust, a quiet covenant between producer and consumer in a world of betrayal. The shadow market flourishes in the labyrinthine alleys of the Keramakos. At dusk, as the legitimate shops begin to close, the area comes alive with a new, secret, bustling commerce. It is a world born of necessity, of whispers and shadows, lit only by the furtive, flickering glow of a few smuggled oil lamps that cast long, dancing, distorted shadows against the high walls of the workshops. You begin to understand the true, hidden economy of Athens. You see desperate Athenians trading everything the state now forbids or taxes into oblivion. Untaxed grain from the countryside, uncut cloth from a weaver's private loom, cheap, unwatered wine, and your olive oil, in its distinctive jars with the small, humble leaf mark. Your oil quickly becomes the most sought-after commodity, a testament to its quality and the trust you have built. You, Lysandra, do not attend the market yourself. It is too dangerous, too conspicuous for the orchestrator of such an enterprise. Instead, you refine your network. Praxilla and the other women, emboldened by their shared success and the growing sense of community, become your distributors. Each one takes a small, fair share of the profits, enough to feed their own families, enough to feel a sense of agency they had lost. They are your eyes and ears in the market, reporting back on demand, on prices, on the ever-present threat of the Scythian guards. You are building an economy from the ground up, a parallel system based on need, on trust, and on a shared, simmering contempt for the men on the mean, who preach democracy while starving its citizens. Your children, too, begin to look healthier, their faces fuller, their laughter returning, a sweeter sound than any silver coin. But as your network prospers, as your modest, illicit success grows, another, far more powerful network takes notice. Ignatius, the magistrate, is not a fool. He is arrogant, yes, and greedy, but he is meticulously observant of his own ledgers. He sees the state's tax revenues from the olive oil monopoly plummeting, a red stain of missing drachmas across his accounts. He hears the whispers that begin to filter even into the aristocratic dining halls. Whispers of a new, reliable source of quality oil, of a mysterious leaf mark that guarantees an honest measure. He sees this not as a story of a community surviving, but as a direct, organized challenge to his authority, an organized conspiracy to defy the laws of Athens, and more importantly, to siphon away his personal profits. And he is furious, his smooth, uncreased face darkening with a cold, aristocratic rage. He dispatches the city guard. Not the honorable hoplites, the citizen soldiers who fight for Athens on foreign fields, but the Scythian archers, foreign mercenaries with hard faces and even harder hearts, kept by the state specifically to police its own populace. They are brutes, loyal only to their paymaster, unburdened by any sense of civic duty or shared community. They begin to patrol the Kerameikos with a new, menacing intensity, their heavy boots thudding on the cobblestones, their bows conspicuously unslung. Their very presence casts a pall of fear over the district. The risk has escalated dramatically. The game, you realize with a cold knot in your stomach, has become infinitely more dangerous. The state is no longer merely aware of you. It is actively hunting you. The crackdown comes on a moonless night, a suffocating blanket of darkness that lends itself perfectly to sudden, brutal violence. You are at your oikos, the familiar, comforting smell of fresh oil filling the air. Praxilla and a few other women are with you, overseeing the final, meticulous sealing of a large order of amphorae, destined for the following day's shadow market. The atmosphere is usually one of quiet industry, of shared purpose, but tonight, a subtle unease hangs in the air, a premonition perhaps. Then you hear it.
For the Scythians,
the screams.
no market
the
was
sound
safe from
is
their
distant
rule.
at first. A high-pitched, panicked cry from the direction of the Kerameikos, quickly followed by another, and another. A wave of cold dread, visceral and paralyzing, washes over you. Your hands, deftly tying off a leather thong around an amphora's neck, freeze. Praxilla's eyes, usually so steady, widen in terror. The sounds grow closer, louder, the guttural shouts of men, the splintering crash of wood, the frantic scramble of many feet. The shadow market. It can be nothing else. You instinctively push the women towards the back rooms, ordering them to hide the remaining jars, to conceal themselves. You bar the heavy wooden gate to your courtyard, the thud of the beam against its stone frame echoing unnaturally loud in the sudden, terrified silence. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic drum against the encroaching chaos. You listen. And you wait. The waiting, you realize, is a special kind of agony. An hour later, when the sounds of violence have receded, replaced by the mournful wail of a child and the distant, rhythmic march of heavily booted feet, a terrified Praxilla appears at your gate. She is alone. Her face is pale and streaked with tears and grime, her homespun chiton torn. Her breath comes in ragged gasps. You unbar the gate just enough for her to slip through, pulling her inside, your hands automatically checking her for injuries. She is unharmed, physically, but her spirit is shattered. She tells you what happened, her voice a strained whisper, punctuated by shuddering breaths. The Scythian guard, led by Ignatius himself, descended on the shadow market. It was not a measured arrest. It was a brutal, indiscriminate assault. They swarmed the narrow alleys, their bronze helmets glinting menacingly in the sparse lamplight. They smashed carts, sending precious goods scattering into the mud and dust. They shattered amphorae, the rich, golden illegal oil mingling with the innocent contents of overturned baskets of figs and grapes. She describes the shouts, the blows, the cries of pain. The alleys, she says, are running with oil and blood, a grotesque, glistening testament to the state's heavy hand. They seized whatever they could, dragging dozens of people away, men and women alike, to the grim confines of the city jail. The shadow market, the vibrant, defiant heart of your burgeoning economy, has been brutally broken. Then she gives you the news that steals your breath, that sends a jolt of icy fear through your entire being. They took Theron, she whispers, her voice barely audible, thick with fresh tears. They came directly to his workshop. They said he was the source, the craftsman of the leaf mark. They smashed his wheel. They sealed his doors, Lysandra, sealed them with the magistrate's own seal. The thought of the kind, elderly potter, his gentle hands accustomed only to shaping clay, now in the rough grasp of the Scythians, in the cold, dark, unforgiving belly of a state cell, is a physical blow, a pain far sharper than any fear for yourself. He is not a criminal. He is a good man, a man of integrity and quiet kindness, who simply helped a friend in need. And you, Lysandra, you have brought this ruin upon him. The guilt is a sharp, stabbing pain, far worse than the abstract compromise you felt before. This is not a mere stain on a ledger. This is a life, a friend, A man in a cage, his livelihood shattered, his future stolen, all because of your actions. The raid, you realize, changes everything. This is no longer a simple matter of breaking an unjust law in the quiet desperation of your oikos, simply to put food on your children's table. Ignatius has declared war. His violence has transformed your quiet, desperate crime into a public, undeniable cause. It has turned your small, anonymous network of widows and struggling artisans into a community under direct, brutal attack. If you scatter now, if you retreat into the shadows, if you let fear consume you, he wins. Theron will rot in jail, convicted as an enemy of the state, likely sold to the silver mines, a slow and agonizing death sentence. And the rest of your community, those who trusted you, who followed your lead, will be picked off one by one, their meager lives crushed under the heel of the state. The path of quiet survival, of managing a hidden, illicit enterprise is closed. It has been violently shut by Ignatius's brutality. The only path left, you understand with a cold, clear certainty, is to fight back. Poverty, you had learned, had made you a criminal. Now the state's unthinking, crushing brutality is making you, Lysandra, an unwilling, yet absolutely determined revolutionary. You send messages. Not in the open, but through the same hushed channels and trusted whispers that had built your olive oil network. You reach out not just to the women in your cooperative, but to Philon the baker, to the weaver whose cloth found its way through your system, to the grain seller, to every single person who now understands, intimately, that their livelihood, their very survival, depends on the existence of the shadow market. You call a secret meeting, not in the blood-stained alleys of the Kerameikos, but in the cavernous, disused wine cellar of a sympathetic merchant, a man whose own profits have dwindled with the state's overreach. In the flickering, uncertain lamplight, you see the raw fear on their faces, the lingering trauma of the raid etched into their eyes. But beneath the fear, you also see something else, something harder, something defiant, a simmering, righteous anger. Ignatius thought his raid would crush them. Instead, it has, with cruel irony, forged them together into a unified, resentful force. You stand before them, no longer just Lysandra the widow, Lysandra the olive oil seller, but Lysandra the unwilling leader of this burgeoning, desperate rebellion. You do not make a grand, impassioned speech filled with soaring rhetoric. You speak simply, your voice steady, quiet, but imbued with a new, steel-like authority. You tell them that hiding is no longer an option, that they must act as one, or they will inevitably be destroyed as one. You lay out a plan, not of violence. You are not warriors, but of economic warfare. A plan to show the city, to show the pompous magistrates on their high hill, just how vital your criminal network, your hidden economy, has become to the daily life of Athens, from the humblest oikos to the most aristocratic villa. You will use the very laws of supply and demand, the fundamental economic principles that they ignore, as your weapon against them. The fear in the room begins to transform, slowly, into a quiet, dangerous resolve. The murmurs cease. Heads nod in agreement. A new, fragile sense of purpose settles over the gathered faces. The revolution, born not of ideology but of sheer, unadulterated necessity, has, in this quiet, dusty cellar, truly begun. And its leader is you. Your plan, born of desperation in a dusty wine cellar, works with a speed and brutal effectiveness that shocks even you. The flow of contraband goods into Athens doesn't just slow, it stops, as if a great, invisible river has been dammed.
There's nothing left.
Your network, once a loose, furtive collection of individuals, now acts as a disciplined, unified, and silent force. The shadow market in the Kerameikos, once a place of whispered commerce, is now an empty, echoing alleyway. Its eerie silence, a far more potent statement than any riotous protest. The state, you realize, is not the only power capable of starving the city. The effects ripple outwards, slowly at first, then with the force of a tidal wave. The bakers, deprived of your network's untaxed flour, can only offer their smaller, more expensive, state-sanctioned loaves, which few can afford. The taverns, their supply of smuggled wine from the countryside cut off, run low on cheap drink, leaving the city's laborers sullen and sober. And most importantly, Athens, a city built on the olive, begins to run out of good, affordable oil. The state's supply, what little there is gritty, expensive, and smells faintly of rancid olives. The households of the poor, the widows, and the craftsmen who had come to depend on your network as a vital lifeline begin to suffer visibly. Their lamps dim. Their food grows more tasteless. But then a new and unexpected group begins to feel the pinch. The rich. The wives of magistrates and wealthy merchants, the very people who publicly decried the lawlessness of the black market, had secretly and consistently preferred the superior quality of your leaf-marked oil for their kitchens and their lamps. Their cooks complain. Their supplies dwindle. The disruption, which was once a problem for the desperate alleys of the Kerameikos, now becomes an irritating inconvenience in the comfortable, opulent villas of the aristocracy. Your quiet, economic rebellion has become a city-wide problem. Ignatius is enraged. His authority is being publicly and effectively mocked. He doubles the patrols of his Scythian guards, but there is no market to raid, no sellers to arrest. He leans on the prisoners he took from the raid, threatening them with the mines, but they remain stubbornly silent, their loyalty to the network that fed them far stronger than their fear of the state that betrayed them. He is a man trying to punch smoke, a commander laying siege to a ghost army. He cannot crush a rebellion that has no soldiers, no physical headquarters, no single place to strike. Your power, you have discovered, lies in your invisibility, in the quiet, unbreakable bonds of trust that bind your community together. Then, he changes his strategy. If he cannot find the heart of the network through force, he will summon it through cunning. The message arrives, not by an official herald, but by a small, streetwise child who presses a tiny, rolled piece of papyrus into your hand and vanishes into the crowd before you can even react. There is no seal, no official marking, just your name, Lysandra, and a time and place. A small, private room above a tavern near the Acropolis. A neutral space between the world of the powerful and the world of the poor. You know it is a trap. Every instinct screams at you to ignore it, to flee, to gather your children and disappear into the countryside. But you also know with a cold certainty that it is a negotiation you cannot refuse. To ignore the summons is to admit fear, to show weakness, and he would interpret it as a victory, redoubling his efforts to hunt you down. You must go. The room is quiet, the air thick with the smell of old wine and beeswax. Ignatius is there, alone, standing by a window that looks out towards the sea. He is not the arrogant, condescending official from the Knicks, draped in the robes of his authority. He is a different man now, pragmatic, direct, his power held in reserve, which makes him, in his own way, far more dangerous. He gestures to a cup of fine, dark wine on the table. "You have made your point, Lysandra," he says, his voice a low, reasonable purr, utterly devoid of his usual public bombast. "You are, I must admit, an efficient operator. I can admire that." He does not speak of laws or justice, of right or wrong. He speaks of systems, a language you now understand all too well. Your system is currently disrupting my system. It is an inconvenience for us both. An inefficiency. And like any inefficiency in a well-run machine, it must be corrected. He then lays his offer on the table. It is a masterpiece of cynical, calculated temptation, a poison offered in a golden cup. "This rebellion of yours is a foolish and sentimental endeavor," he says, his voice soft, almost conspiratorial. "You cannot win. Eventually I will find your people. I will break them. Your friend the potter, Theron, will be convicted of treason against the state and sold to the silver mines. a slow, agonizing death sentence. Your children will be taken from you, made wards of a city that has no resources to care for them. But, he adds, raising a hand, it does not have to be this way. He leans forward, his eyes locking onto yours. Help me restore order. Help me correct the inefficiency. Give me the names of your core operators, the baker, Philon, the weaver, the 5 women, starting with Praxilla, who distribute your oil. Just the leaders. I will make a swift, public example of them, and this foolishness will end. The city will return to order. He lets that hang in the air for a moment, the terrible weight of it pressing down on you. In return, he continues, his voice now even softer, more seductive, your friend Theron will be released tomorrow, his crimes officially forgiven. And you, I will grant you an exclusive, state-sanctioned license to be the sole private purveyor of olive oil in Athens. Your leaf mark will become the official mark of quality, recognized and protected by the state. You will be able to operate in the open, your business not just tolerated but celebrated. You will be protected. You will be, Lysandra, very, very rich. Here it is, the choice. The dilemma that will define your life, laid bare on a wine-stained table in a dusty back room. It is the perfect, brutal test of your soul. You can betray the network you built, sacrifice the people who put their faith in you, and in return you will get everything you ever wanted. You will be safe. Your children will be safe. You will be wealthy beyond your wildest dreams, your future secured by the very state you fought against. Theron will be free. It is the logical choice. The rational choice. The choice of the head. Or you can refuse. You can hold to your principles, your loyalty to the community that you now lead. But in doing so, you will be choosing a war you cannot possibly win. You will be condemning Theron, your kind, loyal friend, to a slow and certain death in the darkness of the mines. You will be bringing the full, merciless, and now very focused weight of the Athenian state down upon yourself, your children, and every single person who has stood with you. You must weigh your own life and the lives of those you love most against the fate of your revolution. You look at Ignatius, at his calm, expectant face, and the 2 paths stretch out before you, both leading to a different kind of ruin. What do? You look at Ignatius, at his smooth, reasonable face, and you see the true, chilling face of the city. They let your husband die for its glory, and then left your children to starve in its shadow. It is a city of gilded, empty words, of deals made in back rooms, where justice is not a principle but a commodity, a thing to be bought and sold by men like him. He is offering you a place at that table. The price of the seat is the souls of your friends. All you have to do is sacrifice every single person who helped you climb out of the darkness. You think of Theron, his kind, clay-dusted hands, the quiet integrity in his eyes. You think of Praxilla, her face a mask of terror and yet of unwavering resolve. You think of the dozens of others who trusted you, who called you their leader. Your success was never yours alone, it was theirs. Their collective courage, their shared desperation, was the only reason you were sitting here, a tangible threat to this powerful, well-fed man. To betray them would be to betray the only thing of real, lasting value you have managed to build in the ruins of your life. No, you say. The word is quiet, a mere breath in the silent, wine-scented room, but it lands with the force of a slammed door, an act of final, irrevocable defiance. Ignatius's reasonable mask slips. For a fleeting moment, a flash of cold reptilian fury appears in his eyes, quickly suppressed. He leans back, a flicker of genuine disbelief on his face. You would choose ruin for a principle? He scoffs, his voice losing its purr and regaining its sharp, condescending edge. You are a fool, Lysandra. A sentimental, short-sighted fool. I am a mother who needs to feed her children, you reply, your voice steady, clear, and devoid of the fear that wants to find you. You rise from your chair. And I am a leader who will not feed her people to the wolves. You turn and walk out of the room, not waiting for his dismissal, leaving him in the stunned, impotent silence. The walk down the tavern stairs and back into the living, breathing city is a walk into a new reality. You have made your choice. You have declared war. You do not wait for his wrath to fall. You act. Your network, once a tool for secretive commerce, now becomes an instrument of open, audacious rebellion. The boycott, which was passive and silent, now becomes active and loud. You organize the women, not to hide in the alleys of the Kerameikos, but to march, heads held high, to the agora, the public, beating heart of the city. They carry your amphorae, the ones marked with the humble olive leaf, and they do not sell. They give your oil away. It is an act of economic theater, a piece of strategic genius born from desperation. You set up in the center of the great square, and you offer a free measure of your fine golden oil to the city's poor, to the very people the state has abandoned. The crowd gathers, hesitant at first, then surging forward. You see the disbelief, and then the dawning gratitude on the faces of mothers, whose lamps have been dark, whose food has been tasteless. The act is a powerful, public statement. It is charity, an act of civic virtue. How can the state arrest women for feeding the poor? The Scythian guards stand by, confused and impotent, their orders to crush a black market utterly useless against an open display of generosity. The act shames the state, highlighting its failure in the most public way imaginable. At the same time, you use the profits you have so carefully hidden away to do something even more audacious, more dangerous. You hire a speaker, a skilled orator with a powerful voice and a reputation for being a man of the people. He is not a revolutionary calling for the overthrow of the government. He is, you instruct him, a simple man speaking on behalf of the widows and craftsmen of Athens. He does not speak of your network, of your illegal enterprise. He speaks only of the state monopoly. He climbs the stone platform of the Nix Hill, his voice carrying on the wind over the heads of the assembled citizens, and he lays out in clear, simple, devastating terms how the magistrate Ignatius is profiting from the starvation of the very people the state is supposed to protect. He uses the state's own language, logic, numbers, reason, to expose its deep, rotting corruption. He speaks of the pittance paid to farmers, the exorbitant price of the state's inferior oil, and the growing, unaccounted-for wealth of the magistrate himself. The effect is electric. The crowd on the Pnyx, already tired, hungry, and deeply suspicious of its leaders, begins to murmur. Your act of charity in the agora has already won them over, a story that has spread through the city like wildfire. The orator's speech, so clear and logical, gives them a specific target for their simmering anger. The other magistrates, seated on their stone benches, see the mood of the crowd turning. They see the hundreds of angry, determined faces looking up at them. They fear a full-blown riot, a breakdown of the fragile order they are so desperate to maintain. Ignatius, the architect of the monopoly, suddenly becomes a liability, a symbol of the government's greed and incompetence. A week later, the news comes, not in a grand public announcement, but through the same network of whispers that you built. Ignatius has been quietly removed from his position, reassigned to some forgotten, distant outpost on the Black Sea, a political exile. The state monopoly is not officially repealed. The state is far too proud for that public humiliation. But its enforcement becomes lax, then sporadic, then, finally, non-existent. The Scythian guards disappear from the alleys of the Kerameikos. It is a quiet, unacknowledged, but total surrender. You have won. 2 weeks later, the heavy sealed doors of Theron's workshop are unbarred. The magistrate's seal, a symbol of the state's oppressive power, is broken and discarded, its wax crumbling into the ever-present dust of the Kerameikos. He emerges, blinking in the bright, unfamiliar sunlight, a man returning from the underworld. He is thinner, his face etched with new lines of weariness, his beard now more gray than black, The darkness of the prison still clings to him like a shroud, but he is unbroken. His eyes, when they find yours in the small crowd of well-wishers, hold not despair, but a deep, quiet, unshakable loyalty. You are there to meet him, standing at the front of the small crowd of women and artisans he had indirectly suffered for. You do not rush to him. You simply wait as his eyes adjust to the light, to the sight of his friends, to the reality of his freedom. He walks towards you, his steps slow but steady. He does not speak. Words feel too small for the moment. He simply reaches out and clasps your shoulder, his large, clay-dusted hand, a familiar, reassuring weight. It is a gesture of profound gratitude, of shared victory, of a bond forged in the crucible of defiance. And in that silent, powerful gesture, you feel the true profit of your dangerous wager. You walk with him, in the days that follow, through the alleys of the Kerameikos. The shadow market is alive again. But it is different now, transformed. The desperate, furtive fear that once permeated every transaction has dissipated, replaced by a cautious but confident openness. It is no longer a place of deep shadows and panicked whispers. The sellers, your people, operate more openly, their voices no longer hushed, their wares displayed with a newfound, quiet pride. The market now exists in a new, fragile state of unofficial tolerance, a gray area of Athenian life. It is too vital for the city to crush, yet still too illegal for it to formally acknowledge. The Scythian patrols still walk their beats on the main thoroughfares, but their menacing presence is gone from these alleys. They know, and the magistrates know, that this small, resilient economy is now an essential part of the city's ecosystem, a lung that allows the poorest citizens to breathe. You, Lysandra, are no longer just a widow, a secret olive oil seller. You are a leader. The other artisans and sellers look to you not just for the supply of fine oil, but for guidance, for mediation. You are the respected, unelected head of what is now quietly known as the Kerameikos Cooperative, a powerful economic and social force born from a simple criminal enterprise. You have not overthrown the government of Athens. You have not remade the world. But you have, through an act of sheer, stubborn will, forced a corrupt and indifferent system to bend. You have carved out a space, a small pocket of economic freedom, for your community not just to survive, but to live with a measure of dignity and control over their own lives. You stand with Theron one evening at the edge of the bustling, transformed market. You watch Praxilla share a laugh with the baker Philon as they negotiate a trade of oil for bread. You see a new widow, recently joined to your network, counting her first real earnings, her face a mixture of relief and disbelief. You are not a magistrate. You do not have a fancy title or an expensive robe. But you have authority, an authority earned not from the state, but from the trust of your people. You look up, over the rooftops of the Kerameikos, and you see the Parthenon on its high hill. It is still beautiful, still serene in the fading light, a perfect, gleaming monument to a set of ideals. In the prologue to this new life, you saw it as a symbol of a lie. Now, you see it differently. You understand that the true strength of Athens, its real, enduring glory, is not in its marble temples or its grand, self-congratulatory speeches. It is here, in these dusty alleys. It is in the unbreakable, resilient spirit of its ordinary people, the people who, when the grand systems fail them, find a way to build their own. You have lived the profound, uncomfortable truth of Aristotle's words. You have seen, with your own eyes, how poverty, when pushed too far, becomes the inevitable parent of crime. And you have learned a deeper truth still, that crime, when it is shared, when it is for the sake of a community, when it is in defiance of an unjust law, can become the unlikely but undeniable parent of a new and better kind of justice. So lie back. Let the story settle. Feel the warmth of the Athenian evening, the quiet satisfaction of a community that has found its own strength. There is no fear here, no anxiety, Just the gentle, resilient rhythm of a life and a city rebuilt from the ground up. Thank you for joining us on this journey back in time. We hope it brought you some peace and tranquility. If you have a moment, we'd love to hear your thoughts on the story in the comments. And as always, we look forward to having you with us again for our next chapter of Boring Money for Sleep. Until then, sleep well.